pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took a harp and played it with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed. This passage from the biblical story of David healing King Saul of a fit of melancholy is a classic example of the beneficial effects of music on human consciousness.
In the ancient world, it was a well-recognized and accepted fact that music could be used to heal, to inspire and expand human consciousness in religious and ceremonial worship, and to help ease the burden of heavy labor. In Egypt, musicians were an integral part of the religious life in the temples. One such musician priestess, Shebut-in-Mut, was well known for the healing and therapeutic effect of her music. To the Egyptians, music was also an important aspect of work, whether it was sowing, harvesting, weaving, or transporting a colossus from the great stone quarries. This illustration from the 5th dynasty shows musicians using concussion sticks to provide a steady rhythm for the work of harvesting.
The legendary Orpheus, an initiate teacher who instituted the science and art of music in ancient Greece, also according to esoteric tradition, founded the Greek mythological system, which he used as a medium for promulgating his spiritual philosophy. Orpheus was renowned for his skill on the lyre, which could, according to legend, still troubled minds, cause flowers to bloom, tame wild beasts, and even charm the gods.
The Greek mathematician and sage, Pythagoras, is accredited with the discovery of the diatonic musical scale and the correct measurement of musical intervals. Pythagoras is also accredited with being the first person to hear the music of the spheres, or the music emitted by the orbiting planets of our solar system. He taught that the universe was a vast musical instrument, and that the human body was also arranged according to musical mathematical rules. A sick man was thus out of harmony with himself and the universe. Through music, the disharmony or illness could be modified, and the person returned to a state of harmony or reattunement. Pythagoras also taught that certain melodies played in certain modes had specific psychological effects on consciousness. For instance, music played in the Phrygian mode had an energizing and invigorating effect on the listener, while music played in the Aeolian mode would compose mental disturbance and induce sleep. It was also his belief that through the appreciation of music, problems of anger, fear, grief, and various desires could be exorcised and transmuted into virtue.
The idea among the Greek philosophers that music could be used to heal and transform character can also be seen in the statement by Aristotle that emotions of any kind are produced by melody and rhythm. Therefore, by music, a man becomes accustomed to feeling the right emotions. Music has the power to form character. In addition, it was recognized that music had an effect on the social and political institutions of a culture. So profound was Plato's opinion on this matter that in the Republic he says, "The introduction of a new kind of music must be shunned as imperiling the whole state, since styles of music are never disturbed without affecting the most important political institutions."
In China, the views regarding the effects of music were somewhat similar to those of the Greeks. The Chinese also judged music on the basis of ethical and moral effects, and were very concerned with the relationship between music and the state. The Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, If you want to know whether a country is well governed and has good mores, listen to its music. It was also Confucius's view that the superior man tries to promote music as a means to the perfection of human culture. When such music prevails and people's minds are led toward the right ideals and aspirations, we may see the appearance of a great nation. The musical conceptions of the ancient Chinese also posited the existence of the great tone, or kung, which was the tone resulting from the various voices and sounds of nature, such as the roaring of the sea, the sound of wind, or the dull hum of a great city. This collective sound of the earth, forever pressing upon and affecting man, is very similar in concept to Pythagoras's music of the spheres.
Again in India, the power of music was exemplified by Krishna, the avatar of Vishnu and teacher in the Bhagavad Gita. According to the Srimad Bhagavatam, his flute had the effect of captivating and transforming all beings who heard it, causing peacocks to go mad, cows and their calves to cry, and all the animals and trees in the forest to stand still and listen to the transcendental sound with great attention. The Mughal Emperor Akbar, upon sensing vexation or irritation in someone, would summon musicians so that a new rhythm would break up the mood. The effects of music were also scientifically studied in India by yogis, especially in regard to mantras. Mantras, or chants, were studied for their effectiveness in bringing about changes in consciousness, such as the attainment of samadhi, or bliss consciousness. Some mantras have specific healing effects. For example, a certain mantra from the Gopalotapani Upanishad was commonly used to cure scorpion bites. The science of mantra yoga taught that each sound in a mantra affected certain chakras, or force centers, in the areas of the body associated with the chakra. To heal a lung disease, for instance, a mantra would be chanted which would affect the heart chakra, thereby in turn affecting the lungs.
Even among more primitive societies, the therapeutic use of music was widespread. For instance, in his essay, Music and Medicine Among Primitive Peoples, Paul Radin reports that among the Ojibwa American Indians, the medicine men would function simply by sitting near the patient and singing songs to the accompaniment of their gourd rattles. Similarly, among the Winnebago, those who had obtained their powers from the bear spirit could heal wounds by merely singing their songs. The effects of sound and music on human consciousness can be traced in all of the learned nations of antiquity, up through the current investigations in music therapy, which, in many ways, are a restoration of this older tradition and knowledge. But what was this knowledge? Why was music such an influential force in the life of these ancient cultures? What did the ancient philosophers and sages know about music which led them to regard it with such importance and esteem?
The theosophical or esoteric teachings regarding sound and music can give much insight into the answers of these questions. Perhaps the most fundamental esoteric view of music is one which postulates that sound creates, sustains, and regenerates the material world. It would not be sound as we normally know it. Rather, it would be analogous to sound on the physical plane. This idea can be found in the ancient Egyptian, Hellenic, Hebrew, and Hindu cosmogonies. In the Gospel of John, this is expressed in the passage, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." H.P. Blavatsky stated in The Secret Doctrine that the world has been called forth out of chaos by sound or harmony and constructed according to musical proportion. The source of this sound she termed Svara and said that it was the root of all sound, the substratum of the Pythagorean music of the spheres, that which was beyond spirit, or the spirit within the spirit.
In regard to this same idea, Rudolf Steiner wrote, "All that takes place in nature is permeated with a mysterious music, which is the earthly projection of the music of the spheres. In every plant and in every animal there is incorporated a tone of the music of the spheres." The teachings further state that the creative energies of which all forms are the product were emitted as sound by the word, or logos. These energies may be thought of as arising from a central spiritual source, which is represented physically by the sun. At their source, they have tremendous potency.
To aid in this process of creating the universe from the uttered word are the spiritual intelligences known as angels or devas. This group of spiritual beings, which ranges from solar archangels and planetary angels to nature spirits, serves somewhat as electrical transformers. Jeffrey Hodson describes this process as follows. The order of angels who thus assist the Logos in the process of the production of evolving forms are known as the builders.